Assalamu alaikum, sir. Good morning.
Walaikum Assalam. Good morning. So, am I audible to all of you now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
audible.
Okay. Healthcare students are also here now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mehak, you are from healthcare.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So, yes. Why I'm asking specifically to healthcare students because they have joined, 15, 20 days left. And today the session is important because I am moving on to the next chapter of the discussion. So, just for your sake of information, uh, student, I'm addressing to healthcare students. Whatever we have discussed and you have missed out, I will take extra classes to cover it up, right? In fact, I will invite rest of the students also. When I took up the when I will engage the extra classes, so I will invite the students from MBA and MBIB and Islamic finance also. In case if you have any queries, any doubt, you will clear at that stage. Today, please allow me to start the next unit uh, in consultation with Professor Jamal Saab. The unit which I'm going to start today is a very interesting area in quantitative analysis. Interesting part about that subject is that this is not invented or discovered by mathematicians. This is the interesting fact that this is not developed, invented, discovered by mathematicians or statisticians. Rather than this subject of study comes out from the battlefield, and actually this was executed and experimented by the armies, military, and then later on it was reshaped and it was reapplied into the common the life of the common man, and then to the business organization. The area which I'm referring to is linear programming. I don't know how many of you have ever heard about this word linear programming. uh, this subject, this area in quantitative analysis, which we call it as linear programming, is a very practical area because it is very useful in business organization. Again, it is a tool, it is a method in the hand of managers to solve the problems of business organization, right? What is this subject all about? Linear programming. What is its core concept? What are its basics? And then what is its application? That is the sole agenda of the discussion. Uh, Things are very interesting, right? And I know this thing that uh, many of you have either studied this in this subject which we call it as linear programming, or you come across in your school days or college days, whatever it is. But I am talking about from the context of those who have not studied the concept of linear programming uh, uh, at their school level or college level. As usual, when we start talking about any area or any subject, it has its own language, it has its own terminology, it has its own style of writing. As you have seen in case of differentiation, we have differential calculus, we have integral calculus, we have functions, all has a different representation. Same is true with linear programming. It has its own language, it has its own terminology, and we have to understand its subject in its language itself. To start with, I'm showing my PowerPoint presentation on linear programming, and then we'll proceed further. Just give me 1 minute to start. Okay, I'm opening my PowerPoint presentation and then we will start discussion. Yes. Are you able to see my slide on linear programming?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, my dear students, as the name itself give you an idea that this topic, which we call it as linear programming, comprises of two words. The first word we call it as linear, and the second word we call it as programming. Let me focus on the second word, which is programming. Now, what is this programming all about? Programming is a simple method of converting a real life problem into mathematical expressions, like what we have done in case of functions to what we have studied, that there is a real life problem of the business organization, like we have solved the problem of production, we have solved the problem of supply chain, we have talked about costing. All those problems of business organization can be represented in the form of mathematical expressions. The same is true here. That method here we call it as programming. हम बिजनेस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की प्रॉब्लम को पढ़ते हैं, समझते हैं और फिर उसे मैथमेटिकल एक्सप्रेशंस में लिखते हैं. That process of converting the the language into mathematical expressions is what we call it as programming. Now, what type of mathematical expression we are referring to? That is the first word, linear. I hope this is not the first time you heard about this word linear. All of you know this linear word, that these are those mathematical expressions which are having the power, which has the maximum power as 1. Those expressions where the variable attains the maximum power of 1. And the best part is that when you plot the linear equations, linear expressions, it will give you a straight line. So here, what the summary is, this is the method where we convert the real life problem into mathematical expressions, and these mathematical expressions are linear in nature, which can be plotted on the graph paper and gives a straight line. So, simple language, this is a technique of solving the problem of business organization where we convert our problem into mathematical expressions that are linear in nature. This is the term which is used. We call it a linear program. Right? Let me move ahead with this other things so that you can understand it. The outline is very, very clear. As I have already discussed, that we start with fundamental aspects. What is fundamental? Why do we study this topic? Why this topic is included in the curriculum of MBA program? Why we are talking about this topic of linear programming at the stage of this MBA, where you are going to make decisions for the business organization, where you are going to solve the problems of business organization? Why do we study? What type of skill we wanted to inculcate after understanding the concept of linear programming? That is all the basics. Then we have its own terminology, we have its own symbol, we have its own style of writing, then what type of problem it solves, and then finally we have some examples, the numerical examples, to elaborate this concept, because mathematical discussion is incomplete until and unless we have some problems in hand which we can solve it out and we can understand the concept. So move ahead with this. uh, you will come across this word very often, which we call it as modeling. So this is a very common word which we come across. We call it as modeling. It's same, which we call it as programming, converting a real life problem into mathematical expression. Here, the type of modeling which we are referring to is mathematical modeling, because modeling is a word which is also used for pictures and diagrams. आपने देखा होगा कि मॉड्यूलर रिप्रेजेंटेशन, राइट? कोई भी चीज है, कोई भी मशीन है, कोई भी प्रोडक्ट है, उसकी एक मॉडल होता है, पिक्चर होती है. हियर वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट पिक्टोरियल मॉडलिंग, हियर वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट मैथमेटिकल मॉडलिंग. What does this mean? This means that the moment we use the word mathematical modeling, we have the inclusion of the variables which are x, y, z, or x1, x2, y1, y2, and which are combined and represented into mathematical equations or inequations or mathematical expressions. The one which is described here. The one which is described here. 2x plus 3y equal to 9. So the point here is that we need to read the problem, we need to understand the problem, and we need to convert them by using the symbols x, y, z, or x1, y1, x2, y2, like, and give it a shape of the equation or the inequation. जैसा अभी आपके सामने है 2x plus 3y equal to 9. That is all mathematical modeling. लीनियर प्रोग्रामिंग इज एन अप्रोच ऑफ मैथमेटिकल मॉडलिंग, जिसमें हम प्रॉब्लम को पढ़ते हैं एंड वी रिप्रेजेंट देम इनटू मैथमेटिकल एक्सप्रेशन विद द पर्पस टू सॉल्व, with the purpose to solve. Moving ahead. Now, that's a very interesting point about it. The best part of any mathematical technique is that it is a process. Now, when I'm saying it is a process, it means that it comprises of certain well-defined steps. These steps are properly defined, and every time you have to apply the same steps, irrespective of the nature of problem. Either it is a problem of HR, or it is a problem of marketing, or it is a problem of international business, or any type, the steps will remain the same. ये इसकी सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट फीचर होता है किसी भी मैथमेटिकल टेक्निक का. About linear programming, the starting point is that it is a two-stage process. It comprises of two stages, stage 1 and stage 2. Now, that's a very important thing. All of you, please note it down if possible, because all the things I have not mentioned in my PowerPoint slide. I'm just giving you, in short about the approach, but just visualize. आप अपने mind में ये picture develop करिए कि जब भी linear programming की problem दी जाएगी, it is divided in two stage. Stage 1, which is known as formulation. Stage 1 is known as formulation. And stage 2, we call it as solution. So we have this one, formulation and solution. Now, what do you mean by, let us talk about stage 1, formulation. Yes. So what I want to say is stage number 1, we call it as formulation. What is formulation? Same. We read the problem and we convert them into mathematical expressions. Stage 2 is solution. Stage 2 is solution. So I'm repeating, stage 1 is formulation and stage 2 is solution. अच्छा, ये समझना इसलिए भी बहुत जरूरी है क्योंकि एग्जामिनेशन में जब क्वेश्चन आता है लीनियर प्रोग्रामिंग का, तो वो ऐसे ही आता है, पार्ट ए फॉर्मुलेट एंड पार्ट 2 सॉल्व. So if this division is not clear, this stage is not clear, you always have a confusion. एग्जाम में हमने अक्सर देखा है कि स्टूडेंट ये पूछते हैं जब क्वेश्चन दिया जाता है कि सर इसे फॉर्मुलेट करना है या सॉल्व करना है. तो always remember that whenever linear programming problem is given to you, stage 1 is formulation and stage 2 is solution, and they are sequential in nature. First you formulate and then you solve. It cannot be the other way around. that you solve and then you formulate. So stage one is formulation, right? And stage two is solution. Formulation, as I have already discussed, it's converting the problem expressions into mathematical language into mathematical expression. About about solution, there are various methods in linear programming to solve. There are various methods of linear programming to solve, but the easiest and easy to understand and the useful method is a graphical method. जो सबसे आसान, सबसे ज्यादा समझने वाला और समझाने वाला मेथड है वो है ग्राफिकल मेथड. So it's always recommended that when you talk about solving the problems of linear programming, always start with graphical solution because it clarifies, it develops the understanding of what is going on. After that, you can move to advanced method like simplex method, and there are other methods which are also there. So primarily we have graphical method and we have simplex method in our syllabus to cover. So with this, I would like to move ahead. Anything that you would like to ask up till here? कोई डाउट, कोई क्वेश्चन तो नहीं आपके माइंड में, कुछ पूछना चाहें आप?
No, sir.
Okay, I will move ahead. Uh, Now I am moving into the details of the method of which we call it as linear programming. The details, as you know, now we are moving into the details. We are moving toward the method, and then there you will see that a lot of terms which are coming on. There are a lot of words that you come across which you are studying for the first time. Try to note it down and seek clarification if anything is not clear. अगर कोई चीज क्लियर ना, पहली बार आप इसको, please feel free to discuss. Number one, a problem is given to us. We read the problem carefully and we convert the information into tabular form. ये जो स्टेप है, ये मेरा खुद का अपना बनाया हुआ स्टेप है. ये किसी बुक में आपको इस तरह से नहीं मिलेगा लीनियर प्रोग्रामिंग की. Nobody will suggest you that you read the problem and convert them into tabular form. But I know the importance of this step, because if you are able to read the question carefully, read the situation carefully and convert the information into tabular form, 50% of the job is over. अगर आप ये सही से कर पा रहे हैं तो समझ लीजिए कि 50% आपने काम कर लिया, समझ लिया. और यहीं पे अगर आपको कोई कंफ्यूजन है कि क्वेश्चन को रीड करने के बाद, इंफॉर्मेशन को समझने के बाद उसे टेबुलर फॉर्म में आप नहीं लिख पा रहे हैं, तो देन देयर इज एन इशू. तो फर्स्ट इज, the first is that we have to read the problem and solve it into and write it down in the tabular form. Then the second step starts. Second step is what? We have to write the objective function. Now this is the first term, objective function. अब यहाँ पे पहला term आई objective function. You know that every problem, every situation has a certain objective. What do you mean by objective? Like from the business point of view, it could be maximization of profit. It could be the minimization of cost. It could be the other like achievements. So what you want to achieve is the objective, and that needs to be represented in the form of mathematical function, which we call it as objective function. So we have this as, we call it as writing objective function. Now the third word is very, very important. We want to solve the problem of business organization. We want to solve the problem of real life. And you know that the solution of the business organization or the real life problem is always surrounded by a lot of constraints. Like what happened? Like I want to complete the unit of linear programming at its best, giving my 100% to this. But at the same time, I have to understand the limitations also, the constraints also. Constraint of time, constraint of knowledge, constraint of examination. So whenever I want to solve any problem, there are certain constraints which covers that. We want to identify those constraints which was already given in the question, and we have to convert or write the constraint in the form of mathematical expression. हमें क्वेश्चन को पढ़ के कंस्ट्रेंट को समझना होता है और फिर उन कंस्ट्रेंट्स को भी मैथमेटिकल एक्सप्रेशंस में लिखना होता है. So that is what we have, writing constraint in equations. Fourth, we have another very important thing. We are solving, and we know that the solutions are always positive. It cannot be negative, and that is why we have to put it there in the question itself, the condition of non-negativity. हम जो भी निकालना चाह रहे हैं वो पॉजिटिव होगा, नेगेटिव नहीं होगा. तो उसको हम कहते हैं putting the conditions of non-negativity, mathematical. I will show you all these terms, all these steps will become more clear when we have the problem in hand and we solve it. But right now, I just wanted to familiarize with the terms. Number one, objective function. Number two, constraints. Number three, condition of non-negativity. And once you over with this, then you have to draw the graph. जब आप ये सारा काम कर लेंगे तो फिर आपको ग्राफ बनाना पड़ेगा. Which type of graph? Straight line. Shall I move ahead? Anything that you want to ask?
So you can move ahead.
मैं एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा था एग्जैक्टली कृतिका से, तो मैं एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा था कुछ ना कुछ क्वेश्चन पूछेंगी. कृतिका, नो क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम योर साइड?
No, sir. It's clear.
चलिए, आपने मतलब ये तो कह दिया कि फिर से नेक्स्ट स्लाइड पे मूव करूँ. चलिए ठीक है. ओके. अच्छा, बाकी सारे स्टूडेंट्स बिल्कुल एकदम म्यूट मोड पे रहते हैं. क्लास सब कर तो रहे हैं ना, क्लास अटेंड, कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं है बस?
यस सर.
Yes,
जी
sir.
सर कर रहे हैं.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
We are all attending classes.
यस सर.
Yes, sir.
एक कार्टून मैंने किसी ने शेयर किया था कि वो एक बच्चा जो है वो उसने फोटो अपना लगा रखा है और देख रहा है वो कुछ और गेम खेल रहा है और अपना फोटो लगा दिया. उससे टीचर ये समझ रहा है कि ये रेगुलर क्लास अटेंड कर रहा है. तो मैंने कही ऐसे तो कोई फोटो वोटो क्लिक करके ये लगा देते सब लोग के, भाई यहाँ पे रख दो, सर को तो लग ही रहा होगा कि क्लास कर रहे हैं. ऐसा तो नहीं है ना?
No, sir. We are
No, sir.
attending classes.
ये कोई और नहीं करता.
तो सर
No, sir.
ठीक है, ठीक. वैसे तो अब तो एक खुशखबरी ये भी है कि खुलने वाला है जल्दी.
Yes, sir. Inshallah.
तो कब से सब पीजी का?
आया तो है, शायद 7th है या 1st है, कुछ आया.
फर्स्ट
तो अभी तो पीजी सेकेंड ईयर के लिए बोला गया है, फर्स्ट ईयर का नहीं दिया
सर
है.
नॉट फॉर फर्स्ट ईयर.
सर हाँ, फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर में नहीं ओपन होगा, सेकंड सेमेस्टर में.
हम बताइए सर कब से आए?
एग्जाम्स तो ऑनलाइन हो.
अगर मेरे उसमें होता है, मेरी अथॉरिटी होती कब से आ रहा, तो मैं तो आप तो कल से कह देता कल से आ जाइए आप. लेकिन ये है कि मेरी अथॉरिटी नहीं है बुलाने की. आएगा, नोटिफिकेशन आ जाएगा. वैसे मुझे उम्मीद है कि 15 मार्च तक एवरीथिंग इंशाल्लाह विल बी रीओपन.
Okay, sir.
15 मार्च से सब
Okay,
फाइनल
इंशाल्लाह.
सेमेस्टर वालों को बुला रहे हैं.
यस सर, फाइनल के लिए है वो.
4 सेमेस्टर.
अच्छा. लेकिन शायद कुछ
ये हमारे
ऐसा
पास semester
तो
online ही
मैंने उसे बहुत केयरफुली रीड तो नहीं किया, लेकिन नोटिफिकेशन की लैंग्वेज से मुझे कुछ ऐसा तो लगता है कि इसे आप लोग चाहें तो आप पर्सनली डिपार्टमेंट विजिट कर सकते हैं, लाइब्रेरी जा सकते हैं.
That is for the graduation students, sir.
सर
सर
हमारा
अभी तक लाइब्रेरी कार्ड्स वगैरह कुछ नहीं बना है, तो ऐसे तो नहीं हो पाएगा.
सर आप सर पढ़ाने के लिए रेडी हैं सर? हम तो आ जाएंगे, हमें नोटिस से नहीं मतलब.
नहीं
आप बताइए.
नहीं हमारे
मोरोवर वो रिसर्च
सर-
वालों के लिए
सर,
था कि
hostels के-
अगर रिसर्च है तो वो लोग जा सकते हैं अपने अपने डिपार्टमेंट में.
नहीं प्रतीक्षा, लाइब्रेरी कार्ड की जरूरत नहीं होती है. अगर आपके पास आईडी कार्ड, जो आपका एडमिट कार्ड है, वही काम कर जाता है. एडमिट कार्ड काम कर
अच्छा
जाता है.
ठीक है.
ऐसा कोई बात नहीं.
सर हॉस्टल तभी अलॉट होंगे ना जब क्लासेस ओपन होंगी.
हाँ, अब असल में अभी तो वो जैसे लीनियर प्रोग्रामिंग में आपको बता रहा हूँ, ये स्टेप 1 हुआ है. अभी तो डिसीजन हुआ है. तो अब स्टेप 1 हो गया ऑफलाइन. अब स्टेप 2 शुरू होगा कि भाई कैसे रीओपन हो, क्योंकि जाहिर सी बात है एक बड़ी यूनिवर्सिटी है, 30,000 स्टूडेंट्स हैं, रेजिडेंशियल स्टूडेंट है 30,000. तो अब 30,000 स्टूडेंट को एक साथ बुलाना, वो भी इस तरह के कोविड के साथ, तो जाहिर सी बात आसान डिसीजन नहीं होता है. लेकिन मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि प्रोफेशनल पीजी कोर्सेज जैसे एमबीए है, एमटेक है, इसको ओपन कर दिया जाएगा जल्दी. और पहले उन स्टूडेंट्स को बुलाया जाएगा जो प्रोफेशनल पीजी कोर्सेज में हैं। तो उसमें आप लोग भी आते हैं, तो
So we look forward to it.
हाँ नहीं नहीं बिल्कुल, यू लुक फॉरवर्ड एंड यू गेट रेडी मेंटली ऑल्सो, ठीक है। चलिए
यस भैया।
Definitely, sir.
सर इस सेम ऑनलाइन एग्जाम होंगे कि ऑफलाइन होने के चांसेस हैं?
आप चांस तो यही लग रहा है मुझे कि आप लोगों के ऑफलाइन हो जाएंगे, जहाँ तक जिस तरह से लग रहा है, कह नहीं सकते अभी तो कुछ, लेकिन लेट्स होप अगर कोई और डेवलपमेंट नहीं होता है किसी भी तरह का, तो मुझे लगता है कि ऑफलाइन हो जाएगा, एग्जाम तो हो ही जाएगा ऑफलाइन। और ये भी अलाउ कर दिया जाएगा कि आप आके इंटरेक्ट कर सकते हैं, डिपार्टमेंट आ सकते हैं, बैठ सकते हैं, तो वो जो लोग होंगे यहाँ पे अलीगढ़ में वो अपना आके बैठ सकते हैं लाइब्रेरी या वहाँ थोड़ा।
सर टेंटेटिव डेट कब से है फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर की?
उसका एकेडमिक कैलेंडर आ तो गया है, मैं चेक करूंगा कि लास्ट वर्किंग डे क्या है, उसके बाद लास्ट वर्किंग डे होता है, तो अब 3 मंथ मान लीजिए आपकी जब से स्टार्ट हुई है, 3.5 मंथ होता है, तो टेंटेटिवली आप मान लीजिए 15 अप्रैल मान लीजिए, बहुत हुआ अगर तो
3 अप्रैल है।
3 अप्रैल होगा, 3 अप्रैल या 4 अप्रैल लास्ट वर्किंग डे। चलिए खैर, प्रोसेस तो स्टार्ट हो जाए, अगर ये सेमेस्टर नहीं है तो नेक्स्ट सेमेस्टर अपना एटलीस्ट आप लोगों का वो लॉस तो नहीं होना चाहिए जो आपसे पहले वाले बैच का हुआ है। एटलीस्ट आप आएंगे डिपार्टमेंट और आपका एक इंटरेक्शन होगा, वो तो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है ना। चल, क्योंकि हम तो वी कैन नॉट इमेजिन a course like MBA without having interaction in the department, because it is not all about learning, is not about classroom. Learning is a major portion of the learning is outside the classroom, and it's not about attending the classes, it's about participation. हम लोग तो जब डिपार्टमेंट में आए हैं और हमने MBA ज्वाइन किया है, हम तो इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज से आए थे और MBA ज्वाइन किया था, तो एक अलग ही दुनिया में हम एंटर हुए थे, जहाँ पे रोज प्रेजेंटेशंस हो रहे हैं, जहाँ रोज प्रोग्राम्स हो रहे हैं, कॉम्पिटिशन्स हो रहे हैं, कल्चरल प्रोग्राम हो रहे हैं, कंपनीज विजिट कर रही हैं, ट्रेनिंग का काम हो रहा है, तो इट्स ऑल अ वेरी हैपनिंग प्लेस, जो कि इस पिछले जो बैच गुजरा है उसमें तो बिल्कुल ही अनफॉर्चुनेटली मिस रहा है। तो लेट्स होप कि आपके ये सब चीज़ें होंगी दोबारा से, और एक नॉर्मल जो एक कोर्स होता है वो स्टार्ट हो। चल स्टार्ट। So I'm moving ahead because all these steps will become more clear once we have a problem in hand. This is again to familiarize with the important terms which is used in the terminology. What are they? If you see, linear word I have already discussed with you, right? Then we have this word very important, feasibility region. Identify the feasibility region. ये आपको बताया जाएगा, सबसे अहम बात, सबसे अहम वर्ड अगर कोई है तो वो ये है, feasibility region. Then from feasibility we have the best, optimal. So feasibility, then optimality, then we move to objective, वो जो पहले मैंने बताया था, objective function, and it could be maximization, it could be minimization, and then we have the word like simplex and all. Move ahead, then you will understand it better. Let me start with this problem. Let me handle this question, this concept of linear programming with this problem. इस प्रॉब्लम को देख के हम काम शुरू करते हैं. We will start. So I will give you 1 or 2 minutes to all of you to please read this question carefully and try to find it out. By the way, just one thing, LPP here stands for linear programming problem. So in A part of the question, it is given LPP, which is a short form of linear programming problem. Kindly read this portion and then we will discuss.
So just a query, is it like similar to work time and efficiency that we used to study in mathematics?
Kritika, will you please repeat your question?
So I'm saying, is it like similar to work time and efficiency that we study in mathematics? Like,
No, it is not. That is an entirely different topic.
okay, sir.
Time management, you are referring to time management and work management. It's not.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let me start. The problem is about the manufacturing firm, right? Which is manufacturing two types of product, A and B. Now, you know, when you manufacture a product, you need some inputs, which in the language of economics you have studied. What do we call inputs in the language of economics?
Factors
Kritika?
of
Raw
production.
materials.
Variable factors and fixed factors like land, labor, capital, etc.
Anam, what do we call them? Kritika is answering that question. Kritika,
Raw
yes,
materials, sir.
Kritika, what do we call them in economics? Inputs in economics are known as
Factors of
Factors
production.
of production.
Factors of production.
factors of production.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yatendra, please hold for a minute. Please don't share this equation to the students, because you know, if you show the equations to the equation, they will not get the real feel of that question.
It is by mistake. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, fine, perfectly okay, no problem. So I will give you an opportunity to share. That's good that you know, but
Yes, sir.
move
Sorry.
in a very systematic manner. It's okay, fine. Chalo. So it's about a problem of the manufacturing organization, which is manufacturing two types of product, A and B. To manufacture A, two types of inputs are required. Number one input is raw material and number two is labor. Now it is given in the information that A needs, one unit of A needs 2 kilogram of raw material and 4 hours of labor. Whereas product B needs 3 kilogram of raw material and 3 hours of labor. So the first 2-3 line is talking about the inputs which are required for raw material and labor hours. Now, each week the firm has an availability of 60 kilogram of raw material and 96 hours of labor. Now that is the constraints which are given to you, that in a week we have the stock of 60 kilogram of raw material and 96 hours of labor. Unit 1 gives you a profit of rupees 40 and unit B gives you the profit of 36. Now let us move ahead and solve this problem. And step number 1, if you quickly recall, I discussed this point with you, that whenever the problem is given to you, I will just share. Whenever the problem is given to you, what you need to do is you have to convert the information into tabular form. आपके पास क्वेश्चन दे रखा होगा, आपको उसे tabular form में convert करना है. I will show you what does this stands for. Step number 1 for this question. Step number 1. I hope the table is visible to all of you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Visible.
So see, this is what we have. We have product A and B. We have the raw material as an input. We have the labor hour. For A, 2 kilogram of raw material, 3 hours of labor. For B, 3 hours of raw material, 3 kilogram of raw material and 3 hours of labor. इस डेटा, इसको इंफॉर्मेशन को क्रॉस चेक कर लीजिए. इज इट द राइट इंफॉर्मेशन? हाँ, ठीक है, इसे चेंज कर दो. I will change 4. Now it's perfectly okay now.
सर बी में प्रॉफिट आएगा 36 था.
36. Yes, that is the understanding. इसीलिए मैंने इसको intentionally थोड़ा mismatch रखा है ताकि you would understand what actually we have done. So now it's perfectly okay. It is matching the information which is given the question. अब आप इसे read करेंगे. Product A needs 2 kilogram of raw material, 4 hours of labor. Product B needs 3 kilogram of raw material and 3 hours of labor. Constraint is given. 60 kilogram of raw material and 96 hours of labor. And the profit is given as 40 rupees and 36 rupees for each. Now, this is the tabular representation. Now, the biggest question that you need to answer when you solve the linear programming is that we have to convert them into mathematical expressions. और जब हमें उन्हें mathematical expressions पे convert करना है, तो हमें variables को include करना है. Now, what I mean to say by variable, we have include x or y or x1 or x2. Now, the biggest challenge that you have, the biggest question that you have to answer is which is x and y or which is x1 or x2 in this equation, in this question. यहाँ तो टेबल के अंदर मैंने आपको बता रखा है. It's already mentioned here कि product A we keep it as x1 and product B keep it as x2. But how do we decide? हम कैसे डिसाइड करेंगे कि which is x1 and which is x2 or which is x or which is y? Yatendra, now can you reply to this question?
Sorry, can you repeat, sir?
I'm saying, how do I identify that which information I will keep it as X or which information I will keep it as Y? यानी वेरिएबल हम किसको लेके चलेंगे इस क्वेश्चन में?
So number of products, I think.
नंबर ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स.
Number of products.
अगर मुझे कंफ्यूजन हो जाए और कोई स्टूडेंट मुझसे पूछे कि मैं तो रॉ मटेरियल को X1 लेके चलूंगा और लेबर आवर को X2 लेके चलूंगा या X और Y लेके चलूंगा, तो हाउ डू यू क्लैरिफाई दिस डाउट?
Sir, I think labor hour will be variable because raw material, like for producing, will be fixed, and it varies from person to person how much time a person will take to produce a material. So, in my opinion, labor hour will be variable and raw material will be fixed.
लीजिए यतेंद्र, आ गया एक दूसरा व्यू आ गया. Kritika is saying that it is raw material and labor hour which are X1 and X2. A and B are not X1 and X2. अब आप बताइए क्या करेंगे हम उसको?
Sir, I think I
Sir,
solved this
X1 and
question
X2.
नहीं तो दानिश, that is the question. Which
Sir, I was saying sir, A and B को X1 and X2 रखेंगे सर, क्योंकि नंबर ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स वेरी कर रहे हैं. हमारे जो हमको ऑलरेडी इंफॉर्मेशन गिवन है, रॉ मटेरियल और लेबर आवर्स वो ऑलरेडी फिक्स्ड है.
Yes, sir. As I said, I solved this question according to taking like X is the number of product A and Y is the number of product B.
just
Yes sir, same approach sir.
नहीं यतेंद्र एंड दानिश, यू आर परफेक्टली ओके, लेकिन आपके जो आंसर्स हैं वो रेस्ट ऑफ द पार्टिसिपेंट को समझ में नहीं आएंगे जो पहली बार ऐसे कर रहा होगा. हाउ डू आई आंसर दिस क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ द वन हु इज अटेंडिंग दिस क्लास फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम? वो कैसे डिसाइड करेगा कि X1 X2 किसको रखना है या X और Y किसको रखना है?
सर सिंपली सर कि X1 और X2 अभी तो दोनों ही वेरिएबल्स हैं और प्रोडक्ट्स भी.
आदिल बताइए, आदिल बताइए.
Yes.
Sir, I think
आदिल जो बात कह रहे हैं, हाँ ओके, वो ठीक है, लेकिन वो कैसे आदिल किसी ऐसे उसको जो फर्स्ट टाइम सॉल्व कर रहा है कैसे उसको बताया जाएगा? वो ये है,
sir, I think we will.
Kritika, just allow me to complete now. Allow me.
Sure, sir.
The point here is that the decision that which is X and which is Y or which is X1 and X2 is actually been taken from the question itself. And if you go back to the question, I will go back to the question. Now, X or Y or X1 or X2, what you are advocating are the variables. And variables are not which vary. Here variables are which are unknown. And unknown are those which we need to determine, which is asked in the question itself. यहाँ पर जो अननोन है वो चीजें हैं जो क्वेश्चन में पूछी गई हैं, और वो उसका आइडिया हमें इस क्वेश्चन के पार्ट बी से होता है, क्योंकि पार्ट बी में दे रखा है डिटरमिन द नंबर ऑफ प्रोडक्ट ए एंड प्रोडक्ट बी so that the firm attains the maximum profit. So this question is that how many units of product A and product B the company manufacture to maximize the profit. So how many means unknown, and X and Y are what? Unknown. That is why the reason that I keep A as X or X1 and B as X2, not labor and the labor and the raw material. तो ये सारी चीजें जो बात आप कहते हैं बिल्कुल ठीक है, लेकिन समझना ये है कि X और Y जो है वो अननोन है, और अननोन वो चीजें जो क्वेश्चन में पूछी गई है. और क्वेश्चन में क्या पूछा गया है? क्वेश्चन में ये पूछा गया है कि कितने यूनिट ऑफ ए और बी बनाएगा so that the firm gets the maximum profit out of it. That is why that gives me the idea कि हमें A और B को X और X1 और X2 रखना है. वरना ये तो बहुत सिंपल क्वेश्चन है. बड़े बड़े क्वेश्चंस होते हैं जिसमें बहुत कंफ्यूजन हो जाता है, लोग कंफ्यूज कर जाते हैं कि किसको आप X1 X2 X3 लेंगे, इतना क्लैरिटी नहीं होती है. So the answer is the clarity is derived from what is required to calculate from the question. I hope I am able to answer the question. Yatendra, Adil, Kritika.
सर एलपीपी क्या होता है? सर एलपीपी
अभी जिशान मैंने बताया था, एलपीपी here stands for linear programming problem.
ओके सर.
ये बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया. क्वेश्चन ये ज्यादातर क्वेश्चंस में यही लिखा हुआ होता है, formulate LPP. In the examination also it is given formulate LPP. So when formulate LPP is given, that means you need to write only mathematical expressions. You need not to solve. Whereas in the B part of the question, you need to solve the question. Yes, Kritika.
First to say, like before you were to explain that, I was to say that we will be focusing on the objective of the question, and accordingly we can figure out like what will be the variables.
ठीक है, ठीक है, मैं समझ आता हूँ. I get the point. Okay. So what I will do, then we have to formulate this problem into the linear programming and all. So today is just a simple introductory class of linear programming. I will stop here, and inshallah next week we would have more linear sessions. I would say more regular sessions, 4 sessions in the next week, where I try to complete this linear programming, and I will take up this question once again. Somebody have sent a message to me to send the PowerPoint presentation for unit number 1, which I covered, that is calculus. Okay, I will send, no issues.
Sir, you asked for the.
जी बताइए. माइन बताइए.
Sir, you asked us to solve this practice sheet for this previous unit, so you didn't send us.
I apologize for the delay. I will do it. अच्छा, मैंने क्या कहा था वो एकदम सबको याद रहता है. मैंने क्या कहा था और मैं आप लोगों से जो कहता हूँ, मैं वो भी देखूंगा कि मैं असाइनमेंट के टाइम दूंगा, उसको दूंगा. अगर वो भी 1-2 दिन डिले नहीं होगा, बिल्कुल जिस टाइम पे जिस डेट पे कहा जाएगा वो मैं चेक करूंगा कि मैंने, है ना? ठीक है.
No, sir, you asked us to complete this and to solve them.
नहीं, मैं बिल्कुल समझ रहा हूँ, मैं उसको बहुत वैसे कह रहा हूँ, लाइट नोट पे कह रहा हूँ, लेकिन मैं भी जो कह रहा हूँ आप लोग मुझे रिमाइंड करा रहे हैं, और मैं आपसे जो कहूँगा वो मैं आपको रिमाइंड कराऊंगा कि असाइनमेंट्स, टाइम, सब कुछ कंप्लीट होना चाहिए टाइम पे. ठीक है. चलिए, तो मैं आई विल शेयर द, आई एम जस्ट ओके, नो प्रॉब्लम. तो मैं शेयर करता हूँ, पीपीटी भी शेयर करूंगा और क्वेश्चन शीट भी शेयर कर लेता हूँ. और हेल्थ केयर स्टूडेंट्स, we will have a separate sessions for you, most likely on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, not this, but in the coming week. I will inform you in advance. और उसमें जो लोग हमारे MBA के स्टूडेंट्स हैं जिनका कुछ क्लियर नहीं था, वो भी मुझसे क्लैरिफाई कर लेंगे. ठीक है. So with this I will conclude today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.